Hi, friends. Happy December 8th. I cannot believe it. Time just continually flows. Welcome to the second episode of the third season of the Friends of Franz podcast. I don't know how obvious it is, but please excuse my raspy and congested voice today. I've been quite stuffy the past few days. It's been so cold here in New York City, and something is definitely going around. But this usually happens to me during late autumn and early winter time, which it is December. The holiday season is upon us. The Christmas jingle bells are ringing and rocking, and I'm so excited because I'll be flying to LA during Christmas week to celebrate with my fam. But speaking of the holidays, this time is a time not only filled with sickness, and I hope everyone has gotten their flu shots by now, but also a time of gathering and traditions. I have always been so fascinated by learning about holiday traditions around the world. As someone who grew up with a Filipino mom, I'm very in tune with my Filipino Christmas traditions, which, by the way, starts on September 1st every year. The whole Philippines literally roll down their paroles or Christmas lanterns, build their Christmas trees, and start playing Christmas in Our Hearts by Jose Marie Chan. Sorry, Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. All by September 1st. And I'm so curious to know what traditions your family or cultures have during this time. But outside of just tangible and ornamental traditions, one that I personally had growing up was watching the Home Alone series. I mean, who else? And also Harry Potter. Fight me when I say that the first movie is a holiday movie. And for some reason, it is also the time I binge on Disney Channel shows like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Oh, I have a story about this. I will say one day where I was literally sandwiched by Cole and Dylan Sprouse in the subway years ago. Anyways, and Hannah Montana. Hannah Montana, my fave. But I'm mentioning Hannah Montana because it is quite related to our episode's guest today. You've got the best of both worlds. Chill it out, take it slow. Then you rock out the show. Remember that? Miley Cyrus played the iconic role of pop star Hannah Montana, where during the day, she's this normal teenager going to school, and at night, she's an icon. Double lives, two worlds, and this is kind of like our guest for today. Physician by day, and sometimes night shift, you know what I mean, healthcare workers, and in front of the camera lights at night. Emergency medicine doctor and print and runway fashion model. That's Dr. Samantha Tall for you. Beyond just talking about the worlds of medicine and modeling individually, we really touch upon some topics that I find super fascinating and real. Like, what should we choose? Passion or career? What makes you happy or what gives you security? As an Asian, and for all my Asian listeners out there, and I know you understand, you know that there's a societal expectation for us, from our families and community, regarding what roles we should take in life. Especially academically, right? The big three. You're either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. But what if you don't want any of those three? What if you want to enter the arts or the creative spaces or anything just outside of these domains? How do you choose? We actually met a story like this during our first season. Dr. George Chowser Wong, who was a former touring rock star turned anesthesiologist. And we take an adventure into a similar story today, but also quite the opposite in some way, from medicine to the stage, both at the same time. It raises a new question. How about passion and career versus or? What makes you happy and what gives you security? We recorded this back in spring, New York Fashion Week, so timely, and I am so excited for all of you to meet Dr. Sam before I continue losing my voice. Enjoy, everyone. Have a great day. I'm loving this. I'm loving this curls
Yes,
going
yes.
on. It's very fitting for our
Still
conversation
fashion
today.
week, so I was like, oh,
Yes.
good,
How are you
just
doing?
chilling for the most part.
This whole week is, well, the previous days is Fashion Week. And as I was thinking about the next season, I was like, there's only one person that would come to mind for me to bring on this Fashion Week. It's literally the best of both worlds. And I was just thinking of Hannah Montana, living one life and the rest. And we have you here today.
Yes.
I mean, doctor and model. I mean, what else can you ask for, right? So thank you so much for joining me tonight as we talk about your journey and your work and the things you love to do as people come in as well. If you
No
could just
problem.
introduce
I'm Samantha
yourself,
Tall,
please.
Dr. Samantha Tall, I guess. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Did my undergrad at Emory University, did my med school at Meharry, and now I'm practicing emergency medicine in Brooklyn, New York. I'm an intern, PGY1, so I'm living the best life that I can.
Yes, and Samantha and I we've been connected for a while on Instagram, but we met. Is it a few
I
weeks ago, or has it been a month already? I was just flying, and we got some boba. We walked around the park, and we talked about so many things and things that I want to share with my audience. Well, I want to touch on first before we delve into the two worlds that you're living in. I want to talk about medicine. I mean, you are Dr. Samantha Tall. I wanted to ask why medicine?
For me, I was
Operation
always really good
comfort.
at the sciences, like growing up, like biology, but really like physiology and just connecting with other like human beings and their families. And like I was able to shadow because my dad was like a chaplain for the most part in the hospital. So I didn't really have like the typical experience of like being able to like shadow my parents because they're doctors. Like I saw firsthand like kind of how the comforting aspect of medicine outside of the science parts. And I think that's what really drew me in, just being able to like really help people in their most vulnerable parts of their lives and their family members. So I think that really drew me into medicine. And then I just had like a natural strength, thankfully.
Yeah, I think it's always super helpful to have like a natural inclination to the topics that you enter in and that you're good at, right? Because, like you said, there's
I
no
have an uncle
physicians
who's an
in your
orthopedic
family, right?
surgeon. He's like all the way in
Except
Florida, and I grew up in
the orthopedic
Ohio,
surgeon.
so the connection wasn't necessarily there.
Yeah. So, I mean, for those who may not know, even though I think it's the same in different countries, as the road to medicine is quite long, right? I mean, it's not quite, it's super long. I mean, you do your undergrad of 4 years, and then 4 years of medical school, and then X amount years of surgery. I know you're doing emergency medicine.
Yeah.
So, which is
So some
3
programs are
years?
4, but I
Which
chose
is
3. So like I
yeah,
really
3
wanted to get
years.
extra year first.
Yeah, I know. No need for it. And so I wanted to ask, I mean, you have given so much time and effort and obviously emotions in school, both in undergrad and medical school, and even in training now. I'm guessing a lot of missed events in the family and friends, a lot of times when friends may be hanging out and you probably can make it because you're studying. And also, for the most part, is the amount of financial burden that medical school, the whole medical training can inflict on its students, those who pursue the dream, right? Do you have any regrets in entering the field or pursuing this path?
Sometimes I regret
and
like not taking
training?
a gap year, but then I think back to like what I would have done in my gap year, and like my family's not the best financially like off, so it wouldn't be like me traveling Europe or anything fun. It would be me like studying and having like a full-time job. And yeah, like granted, or like being able to have more time off to go on vacation with my friends and just like even with like some modeling events, like it'll be like, oh, like the client would love to like fly you out to like Korea or something. And I'm like, I have a med school exam.
Yeah.
I literally cannot do that, even though that would be a dream of mine. But I'm like, it's delayed gratification is like the motto.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask, going down this third season of the podcast, we've had so many physicians on at this point. I think a recurring theme is this delayed gratification. I guess your answer would have been different when you were a pre-med and then when you were in medical school as a medical student, now in training, and probably when you finish training, become an attending. But do you think a delayed gratification
I
is
definitely
worth
think
it?
it's good to not make like impulsive like decisions just because it feels good in the moment. And I'm seeing like slowly the delayed gratification like working out really well. Like I remember being super stressed in med school and in undergrad, but now like in residency, even though it's still stressful, it's like I'm so much closer than when I like started, that like my mental health is like really good right now for like the first time in a really long time. So I think it's worth it. And then like you might not notice it, but other people notice it and they point it out. So I think, it's fine.
Yeah, and I think also the interactions with the patients as well, right? Making difference in their lives and touching their lives as their physician. I guess that makes it all worth it, right? All of the hard work and all of the studying.
When you see it, because sometimes like even
right?
though you're doing the delayed gratification, sometimes you see like instant like gratification job, like some laceration repair, or like you notice like your patients like decompensating and like you reassess them and now you're calling the ICU so that they're like gonna be fine and stuff like that. So it's like little things like that where like I delayed a lot, but then I'm seeing a lot of instant gratification. So
and those lacerations and compensations that you talk about, it's very prominent in your field, well, in your department, which is the emergency room, right? I want to ask, why emergency medicine? Where did this love for trauma and the rush rush and
Yeah.
the
So
trauma.
for me, I think what I really like about emergency medicine is that you treat anything that walks through the door. You are like masters at resuscitation. And like you're kind of like the gatekeepers of the hospital where like you know what's emergent enough to get somebody admitted, but you also know what's enough to get somebody discharged. So for me also, I feel like the personalities of the people that are in EM, we're all kind of like alike. Like we're all kind of chill. We like to like work out and just have like a good time. And that's something that drew me to emergency medicine because initially I wanted to do urology, but then I'm kind of like, no, like you're on call, like the lifestyle is not good versus like EM. Like, yes, it's a lot when you're on shift, but then when you're off, like you're completely off and you can go about your life like a normal person. Yeah, I just enjoy it. You know, you see like everything and anything, and there's always characters, but you know, it's always
Yeah, I mean, I'm just laughing in my mind when you say that the personality of EM, like working out, chill. All I can think of right now is Calvin's son, that we both know, who's like the epitome of an emergency medicine physician. You know, it's like, I mean, you see those TikToks and those Instagram memes of emergency medicine. They're just like walking so coolly in the hallway, and I think it's the same vibe that you get when you watch like Grey's Anatomy and then you see an emergency room doctor. I mean, you know, despite the chillness of it, and for sure the teamwork in the emergency room is amazing, right? I mean, when things are happening all at the same time and so many things happening at the same time in different degrees of acuity and extremes, there's definitely days where it's probably so hard to, and I don't know, like heartbreaking, and I guess there's times where you feel like you did your best, but you know, I guess medicine is things that you cannot expect, right? Like you can give your best wanted. That being said, what do you think are the best and worst parts of being in emergency medicine?
Ooh, yeah, I definitely think I'll start with the worst. I think the worst is definitely dealing with like death, especially when it's unexpected. And then sometimes in the emergency room, there's like a sense, I think, I don't know, after COVID, like people kind of don't realize that like the emergency room is for like emergencies. So sometimes they come in for like chronic issues that they could follow up with their primary care doctors. And it's not like patients that like don't have primary care doctors. It's like patients that do and still come to the ED, even though they like were just on the phone with their PCP and just in their office. So it's like things like that where it's just like, okay, like I don't know how to help you so much when you had instructions on what to do. It's okay, like I'll still help. And then I'd say like the best aspect is like, again, like keeping someone alive and also just like teaching people like new things like then and there, like that instant gratification component. Like I remember one time I taught a sex worker like how to use a menstrual cup, and I was like, yeah, like this is a great way to prevent you from, you know, getting toxic shock syndrome, and like, you know, then you can work because you don't have to show your string while you're like, you know, doing your job. So it's like little things like that where you're like, I wasn't expecting to do that today, but like I don't know why, but that felt good to teach someone something that like they like didn't necessarily know, you know?
Yeah.
So little things.
Definitely. And those small things are actually like could be the biggest day of someone's life, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I remember Calvin would always say that the emergency room is the place where it's probably the worst day of a patient's life. Like they don't want to be there and they don't expect something and it happens and they're just there, right? And they're the hands of the team in the emergency room. At this point, you've seen so many lives and that so far, not just a emergency resident, but also for sure during your rotations in medical school as well. Having seen so many things now and having experienced so many things, what would be your biggest tip or advice or encouragement, or if you want to dissuade someone or someone who wants to pursue the field of medicine and wants to become a physician?
Yeah, so I'm like really spiritually grounded, so I definitely think like having like a good like faith centered and like God or whatever you believe in is like one of the first things. And then definitely also having a good relationship with my parents. Like growing up it was rough because I'm gonna like label them as like tiger parents. Like they like just never let me go out the house. They never like let me go party, but I'm appreciative that they did that because now I can do that now that I'm older. Also just like kept me focused on what I needed to do. And I think the biggest thing is you have to be like your biggest like fan, because like at the end of the day, like no one's gonna like really support you until you can show that you could do it. So like when I was starting off modeling, people were like, why are you doing that? Like you're gonna distract yourself from medicine. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna do both. And they're like, good luck with that. Like you won't be able to do it. And I'm like, just because you said that, I'm petty enough to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I go about life. Like just be petty and and just do what you want to do.
Honestly, that's a real life motto. Just be petty and do what you want to do and do what you have to do, right? Ever since I was a child, my inner arms and neck would always suffer from itchiness and irritation whenever I would sweat. It can become so debilitating, forcing myself not to scratch my skin and end up with wounds from prickly heat, especially at night. Thankfully, I have found relief through By Dr. Mom's Soothing Beta Cream and Soothing Bed Treatment, which uses barley-derived beta-glucan technology to help alleviate eczema, bug bites, and dry, itchy, irritated skin. Beta-glucan is a fiber shown in scientific studies to improve skin hydration and healing, and By Dr. Mom's products extract it with a technique that uses air technology, requiring no chemicals or solvents. Created by family physician Dr. Stephanie Liu with the help of an allergist and immunologist, you can now allow your skin to breathe and heal naturally. Using the code CHRISTIAN10, that's CHRISTIAN10, you can get 10% off your first order on bydrmom.com. As a healthcare worker, my identity can become so boxed within the pressures and expectations of my profession that sometimes I forget who I really am outside the hospital walls. This is why I find so much power and liberation in self-expression through fashion and accessories, and Lupin seeks to do the same. Encouraging self-confidence and creating a safe space to be yourself, Lupin seeks to share with the world simple and impactful jewelry pieces that can bring confidence effortlessly. Meaning what goes around comes around, the brand, comprised of third-generation jewelers, holds a mission to brighten the community by promoting positivity and a growth mindset. Lupin's clean designs are handcrafted in South Korea using 925 sterling silver and can go with almost any outfit on anyone. In fact, I wear my pieces on and off shift. With the code Franz, that's FRANZ, you can get 15% off your first order on lupincollection.com. Let's bring more luster into the world, together with Lupin. I remember coming home every day from elementary school and smelling the newly steamed jasmine rice in the cooker that my grandmother made just in time for dinner. It reminded me of my first few years living on the farm back home in Asia, sniffing the rice while overlooking the fields. Founded in 2020, Bison Candle Co. hand-pours nostalgic and iconic scented soy wax candles inspired by the Asian scents, flavors, and traditions that founder Brandon Leung grew up with in his first-generation Chinese-American household. Brandon's mission with Bison is to create authentic Asian aromas while rediscovering his love of his Chinese culture and heritage. The candles and home fragrances celebrate aromatic Eastern flavors and aromas one would typically find in an Asian kitchen or pantry, like Vietnamese coffee, steamed white rice, and white peach. Enjoy traditional scents alongside some modern spin-off blends and be taken back into the beauty of the motherland with the code BISONFRANZ, that's BAISUNFRANZ, for 15% off your first order at bisoncandleco.com. We talk a lot about medicine and, like you said earlier, like Hannah Montana, right? In the day you're a doctor, or nights, because I know you take night also as well. And then the outspring of that, you're a literal fashion model. So I wanted to delve into that. It's like, where did this modeling come from? Like, which came first kind of situation? The chicken or the egg kind of thing, right? Did medicine come first? Did modeling come first? Definitely medicine came first. Okay.
Yeah, although I think the inspiration for modeling was first. What I actually did was medicine first, so that kind of makes sense. Like growing up, like, I mean, my like actual last name is Tall. Like that is definitive. I never changed it. That is what it is. And then I've always had people tell me, like, oh, you look so unique, you look so mixed, exotic. And I never, like, you know, really got the opportunity to try it growing up because, like, I grew up in a household without, like, internet and, like, photography. Like, you know, like, I just did not have the opportunity to branch out. So when I was at Emory, like, I was able to, like, work with friends that had cameras and needed models. And then, like, people were like, oh, you should, like, actually do this. And I was like, okay. And then, so I learned how to use Instagram better and, like, connect with people and, like, find projects to like go on to and then get signed. And then I learned about what a good agency is from being signed to one that wasn't that good. And then also like contract negotiations and stuff like that. And a lot of modeling is like, you just have to teach yourself how to do a lot of things too. Like Coca Rocha, before she made the camp, she had a book that's like 1,000 pages long. And basically it's like, because she's a trained, I think, tap dancer too. You just have to really train yourself to like realize that like modeling is like acting, but you only like one like shot with the camera to really portray what you're trying to do. And then also like you are advertising like a product sometimes. but just making
Yeah.
sure, you know, you're giving good light to that and always just staying on top of your look and whatnot, I guess, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Did you have growing up or even now or throughout your college years, did you have a huge role model? You know what I mean? Like someone that you looked up to, a model.
Ooh. Honestly, no. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like, I did not like most of like the because I felt like it was very superficial on everybody, and like almost like I don't know if you've heard that TikTok audio of like Kate Moss, where they're like she like is encouraging girls to like not eat. So I never really paid attention to like models like that per se. I just like always looked around. But I think now that I'm more like solidified in my career, I'd say my favorite model is Christy Turlington. Like we're both half Salvadorian. She's one of the few models that went back to, she's a super, and went back and did like a master's and is like doing things to help El Salvador in terms of like maternity crises and stuff like that. So like, to me, that was very inspiring. And I'm like, okay, like now that I see your face everywhere, like you're like really inspiring versus like some, like now it's like Nepo babies and influencers. So I'm not too inspired by like too many. I mean, I do like Bella Hadid, but otherwise I'm just like, I'm not inspired right now. I look back at the old supers and I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
right now,
those supers, right? Yeah. Well, that being said, let's say someone out there is like, oh, I want to become a model. What are the steps that one has to take to enter this field that's so daunting and that, I mean, it's very daunting, right?
Yeah. I think the first thing is taking like good digital photos. So it's like a Polaroid is like no makeup, quote unquote, but people are wearing foundation and like eyeliner, not eyeliner, but like, what's it called? Mascara and stuff like that. So if those pictures are good, then you can submit online. However, when I first started, I went to open casting calls because it's a little bit easier for people to get signed when like the casting director or like the agent sees the person in person. I think that's like a really good thing to do. And then just building up a portfolio prior also to auditioning and trying to join an agency to show people like, hey, I'm serious about this. Like I already have my book mostly developed. Like we only need to do a little bit of modifications. And then just you have to be like thick skinned and realize like you're going to get like a lot of no's like before you get that yes. But like that one yes can be like the thing that starts your career, launches you and stuff like that. Because I think like Ashley Graham, she's one that I'm inspired by. Ashley Graham, I think she said like that it took her like 10 years for her career to like finally like really launch. Yeah, and I was like, okay, I can believe that. I can 100% believe that.
Yeah, because it's just such a daunting field and there's so many opinions and right. And but still, what do you think are the best parts about the modeling industry?
I think it's for sure meeting with like the other models and working with like photographers and makeup artists, because I feel like a lot of us, we all share the same goal of like we want our work to go like super far. And sometimes like the impeding factors is like a casting director or like the representative of the brands that like we want to work for. They already know who they like want to choose. So it's sometimes hard to like break the glass ceiling in that sense. Cause like I said, like I've met like really, really amazing photographers, but then agencies don't want to like test. So testing is like taking like test photos with their models with that photographer, even though their work is amazing. And like sometimes some of them like they practice like illegal practices of only referring like certain photographers or like certain makeup artists when that's like not actually technically legal. So there's like no really laws with modeling, which does make it kind of dangerous at times for someone who doesn't quite understand their contracts or they don't like understand like what's going on. So for instance, like the first agency I ever signed with, he was trying to make me renew, and like there was an exit clause that was like if I left, it was like a 2-year contract. Let's say that I left like 1 month into like the 24-month contract. For 23 months I would have to pay them like $200 or like $500 to leave. And I was like, I'm not re-signing with you because that is absolutely predatory. So it's like a lot of people don't know that, so then they're like just stuck. And then they don't realize that like things aren't free in modeling. So when they buy you out, if the client's not paying for your plane ticket to like Korea, that's coming out of like your booking, and then it could be coming out with interest. So like you have to pay attention to the fine print, and like just watching like videos online. There was like one video that's like the dark truth of male modeling that like really went into detail about like all the things that like models go through, and then also kind of watching like John Casablanca's documentary of himself before he passed away, and you kind of see like kind of how predatory the modeling industry is, but also understand like the practices of it. And I think you just have to like outsmart them, make sure you're not getting financially played or legally played as well. So I think that's been my hardest feat in terms of like going through all of this, because I've been offered like contracts and stuff, but then I'm like, I read it in depth and I'm like, I am not signing this.
I mean, when you think about it, it's so kind of so nuanced and so hard because obviously, let's say a model, right? Given this contract, and for sure, it's like it sounds so beautiful, and it's like, oh, I can jumpstart my career. Oh, this might land me into such a big project, and it's like I'll do anything that it takes to do it, right? And
Yeah.
you said the field can be very predatory. I guess depends on the agency or this or that. But outside of that, I mean, I feel like both the fashion and the modeling industries are always often under fire online now, especially because they talk about how their demands on lifestyle, specifically diet and how one looks, and always labeled as very superficial. We hear for decades, right? Like, oh, you must be skinny, you must be tall, you must be this, you must be that. I want to link this too to, I don't know if you've seen this on TikTok. Now they called it the almond mom, and they derived it from, I think, Bella Hadid's mom.
Yeah, Yolanda, yeah.
Yolanda, because of a clip, I think, where she was saying, oh, you can only this amount of this and stuff. And I mean, outside of Yolanda, this is a truth that's very real in the modeling industry. I mean, we've heard so many Victoria's Secret angels come out and talk about, dangerous diets that they were on to meet the weight quota for a single project or for the runway. That being said, I wanted to ask was there ever a time during your modeling career and your castings, your auditions, where you felt like you were targeted personally on a very superficial and physical level?
Yes, for sure. There was this one agent in Atlanta. Me and my sister were trying out for this. And Jess, if you're watching this, I'm sorry I made you go through this. But we auditioned for her, and she told us both to lose 10 pounds. So we're like, okay, we'll try. So we went on this salmon and spaghetti squash diet. We were still eating, but it wasn't a normal diet. I wasn't about to starve myself. And then back, we lost the weight. We were working out, and then she had the audacity to say, this agent, oh, there's other girls that look like you too on our roster, so we're not going to sign you. And then I look at the roster, and it's literally just white women with straight blonde hair. I was like, what the hell? My hair's not naturally straight for anyone that's watching it right now. This is not what I normally look like. And then my sister's also darker skin. So I was like, you're literally lying. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. We did what you wanted us to do, and you still wouldn't sign us. But it's whatever. It is what it is. Yeah. And also my hips. So everybody wants a 34 hip. I have a 37 or 38 hip. And I'm I can't. You can't, it's not a hip measurement at that point. You're measuring my butt. And that's not the same thing as, my hip.
Yeah.
And so they'll use it as, an excuse to have girls, oh, you need to, lose weight, do this. And I'm like, why don't you lose some weight or something? Stop telling me what to do, because, I have a chance to book this job. You absolutely do not. But that's me being petty, and, I shouldn't think that way. But yeah, I tell a lot of girls, especially younger girls, now that I'm 26, because somebody told us one of my friends, oh, you should go on an ice diet. I was like, do not do that. I was like, for the love of God, do not only eat ice. That is crazy. You're already naturally skinny. Maybe, if you want to try something different, maybe get kids meals or something that's still sustainable enough for you. But I don't think you need to lose weight. You're underage. You're still growing. I don't know. Told you that, but I wasn't a doctor then. But I would have reported that.
Yeah.
That's abuse.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion. I mean, as a grown up, it's different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, you've seen a lot of body inclusivity and within the modeling sphere and the fashion sphere. But do you think there's still this pervasive idea that a model, again, based on history, right? Models are the ideals and the images of beauty of what society thinks is beautiful, right? What's worth it to be in a magazine, a front cover of magazine, and a commercial. Do you think there's still that pervasive idea that the ideal model is someone who's skinny and super slender and white?
Yeah. For the most part, I 100% believe that. I do think, though, it's really changing to more celebrity influencer culture. So it's kind of.
Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, so it's I feel like every month that Vogue comes out with something, it's always some actress or some celebrity on there, and it's not the same era where we would have the supers Chrissy Turlington or Tyra Banks, real, no offense to these actors and influencers, but it's completely different. And then also I'm noticing a trend where there's there's not a normal body standard. It's you're either very skinny or then like extremely plus size, or like very like BBL like, so like body modification. Everybody is fine, but it seems like for like the normal standard like 4 to 6 or like 6 to 8 sized woman is not being like really included in like this like body positive narrative, and they're kind of being like shamed, like people are like, oh, like you don't have like the right to talk because like you've always been included in like this conversation, when really it's like the 0s to 2s that have been, and not like anybody else. So like I do think it's very interesting to see like what's going on. I mean, it's become a lot better, so I will praise the modeling industry for that, but there's still problems that need to be worked out, and like it's almost like talking about like gender equality without being intersectional, and I feel like there's like a lack of that, and people are just like, they'll use tokenism and stuff like that to like promote their stuff, and then like not actually like change anything, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, this reminds me of, I forgot the series on YouTube, but there's something on YouTube where two different opposing sides,
I know what you're talking about.
They walk to the, come on the front if you believe blah blah blah, and then you walk to the front. And there was one episode where it was Instagram models versus runway fashion model. I mean, I know you've touched upon this already. Is there a really big difference between the two? I mean, you answered this already. Is there training when it comes to like runway and original fashion models as opposed to influencers?
Yeah, so because I kind of do like a little bit of both. Like I'm like a micro influencer, and honestly, the micro influencing is way easier to do than the modeling. Like, I took runway classes with my first agency. I took posing classes. I like, it's different. I mean, being a content creator is hard too. Like I'm not trying to disparage them, but I feel like they are taking a lot of like opportunities away from models. I mean, when you watch that video, like, you could see the difference in like how they both sides portray themselves, and it seemed like the Instagram models were really a lot more entitled than the actual fashion models, which I thought was really interesting, because like you would expect the opposite, but like what I do notice about a lot of models is that they're like really humble, they're really trying their hardest, versus when I like talk to like big time influencers, they're like, who are you? Like, oh, I don't like really care about your presence, so like, are you gonna help me gain followers? No, like then I like care, you know, like, and it's different. It is very different when you talk to both like different people. I mean, there's ones that are influencers too, and they're still really down to earth. Like, who did I meet? I met Jasmine, one of the Victoria's Secret models, one time, like the club. She was really down to earth, but she's also an influencer because she's one of like, the original Victoria's Secret models. So it really just depends. Maybe it's just personality, and I'm just like maybe making a stereotype or something. All
that as the, being an emergency resident physician, so busy for sure. You take calls and this and that in the hospital. Do you still model, and how do you mix that schedule together?
Yeah, so with EM, I work when I'm on my ED block, so I work like 18 shifts a month. So it's like in the span of 4 weeks, it's 18. So yeah, like maybe like 10 days off, and like in those times I at least try to like see when I'm available to book a job or do a shoot outside of like a booking or anything like that. So like the other day, last Saturday, I was able to walk for New York Fashion Week because I was like kind of semi off. Like I got called in for sick call, but I was luckily able to find somebody to cover for me last minute. But yeah, like I'm able to like, because my agent knows that like I'm a full-time resident, and that's very rare for a lot of agencies. Like most agencies will be like, you can't do anything, like you're useless. You're not going to commit 100%, then don't even do modeling. And I think that's not right, because you're not getting jobs consistently 24/7. And these girls and guys and they them like, we need to finish like our education, because modeling only works for so long for the majority of people. So I think it's super important to finish your education and like find a way to like make it so that when you're off on the weekends, instead of binge watching You off of Netflix, you're going to a shoot or something, and like prioritize your career, but also medicine, law school, whatever it is.
Yeah, and this is a question that I was very, very intrigued and excited to talk about. I guess depending on how you label us both, whether it's a passion or it's a career. And I asked this because we had a guest in season 1, Dr. George Chaucer, and he was a former rock star. And then he turned to anesthesiologist. And throughout medical school and the residency, he would go on tour. He was touring rock star. He would go on tour. He said that he would study in the tour bus and then go straight to school to take the exams. And eventually, he gave up his music career for medicine. Now, I remember him specifically saying that he said that's my story, but that doesn't have to be the story of other people. And I want to pose to you the same question because I think, hearing your story and when we talked and I was thinking of us talking, it really reminds me of that episode because, and I think it's also in different cultures, different family structures, there's this pervasive idea of passion and career, practicality and passion, right? I think for many cultures around the world, being a doctor is and when it comes to hierarchy, that would be the utmost reach of career, right? It's a terminal degree. There's a lot of prestige and honor and satisfaction when it comes to the career. And then there's things like the arts, like the music or acting or modeling and fashion. Do you label in your mind which one is a passion and a career, given that you do both? And I'll series this questions. Is it possible to live both lives of a passion or career or medicine and arts? And do you have to choose between the two at the end of the day? And it's a loaded question, but I wanted to just throw it all out.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, passions and careers definitely both exist. For me, I think they're both careers. Like, I've been long-term invested in them. And I feel like sometimes when I get this question, like as a woman, that a lot of guys don't get that question when they're trying to pursue two things at once. So I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, you would not ask my male counterpart that question. And I think that for me, when I become an attending, like I work even less shifts by then, maybe like 12 a month. So it's a lot more doable for me to like be able to do both because like I said, you're not consistently working all the time unless like you're like Bella Hadid or Gigi. So I think it's definitely possible to do both. I've never had the mindset of separating them both as like career. I consider them like both passions and careers as I kind of considering one over the other would like drive me like insane. Like there are certain periods though where like I take a pause from modeling to concentrate on medicine because my medicine is more time constrained because residency is a very competitive process to do. I'm very grateful to have matched. There's a bunch of residents that don't match every year. It's like in the thousands. So this is my priority in this stage of my life. And then once I master it, then I'm hoping that the next stage is like, modeling, maybe making like my own agencies, anything like that. So it's like certain stages of my life or like when I prioritize one over the other. So like over the winter break, I had like a really bad breakup. So I wasn't really concentrating on modeling because the self-confidence was not there. But I was like just concentrating on medicine and whatever. Like I'm just going to work and like, save these people's lives. And then now that I'm a little bit on a more lighter rotation and it's fashion week, I'm like, okay, like now I can do like some more modeling. So I mean, I'm still like doing everything I'm supposed to do for my residency, but I'm like, I'm, not working 12-hour shifts right now. I just let my agent know. We try to like find the jobs and then it happens. So I definitely don't think I could enjoy life without one or the other.
In this world of social media that places so much physical critique and pressure on maintaining a youthful appearance against all environmental odds, the skincare and beauty industries have succumbed to a myriad of anti-aging practices. However, the covert fact is that beauty is timeless and that aging is a privilege. Regents, an inclusive wellness brand, seeks to promote this ritual of well-aging, understanding that it is connectivity with the body and attentive care given to it as it changes, including our skin. Founded by Filipino-American Gilio Riccio, Regents introduces the all-encompassing serum, created to target the concerns of maturing melanated skin by utilizing a blend of healing botanicals used by our ancestors and select clinically proven active ingredients. From the brightening Ayurvedic licorice root to the soothing Centella asiatica and hydrating green algae, welcome to the journey of fueling skin health and enhancing, not changing, your natural shade. With the code FRANZ, that's FRANZ, you can get 15% off your first order on regentswellness.com. Experience the power of mixing native wisdom with modern-day science. Do you have any guilty pleasures? I have one. Boba. Given that the average cafe-made milk tea has over 100 calories per serving, over 20 grams of high glycemic sugar, and is packed with artificial flavors, I am so glad that the guilty days are over with Twirl, the world's first canned plant-based milk tea. With only 45 to 50 calories per serving and containing 6 to 7 grams of low glycemic sweeteners, Twirl is made with pea milk, the most sustainable plant-based milk on the market, regenerating the soil where it comes from. Fair trade and organic are the names of the game, as the teas are sourced from biodiverse family farms in China, Japan, and Taiwan that practice sustainable farming techniques. No artificial flavors are ever used. From 4 different flavors to ready-to-eat plant-based konjac and boba pearls, let's enjoy tasty, creamy, shelf-stable, and healthy milk tea together for 10% off using the code FRANZ10, that's FRANZ10, on twirlmilktea.com. Twirl around in its goodness. Growing up, I was ashamed of my Asian heritage. Classmates would comment about the lunch my grandma cooked. Other kids would make fun of my eyes. And even some adults today would tell me to go back to where I came from. But where do I really belong? Who really am I? Am I not American enough? Highlighting the year of the first documented arrival of Asian Americans in North America, 1587 Sneakers seeks to shine the spotlight on Asian American stories and demonstrate to the world the extraordinary breadth of our passions and achievements. Made with full-grain natural Italian leather by footwear artisans, 100% biodegradable natural rubber outsole, calf leather interior lining for comfort and good smells, and waxed cotton laces for longer-lasting cleanliness, these premium sneakers combine the highest quality, an array of timeless designs, and the movement to be authentically who you are. With the code FRANZ15, that's lowercase FRANZ15, you can get 15% off your first order on 1587sneakers.com. Step into embracing your identity without hiding. Express yourself unapologetically. Now that we've talked both the medicine side and the modeling side, obviously you talk about your experiences of how superficial and how daunting and how predatory the field can be. How do you navigate that both as a woman and as a doctor? This world of many worlds, right? Yeah. It's like a multiverse.
Yeah. Oh, it's like so different because like for modeling, like it's mostly like female dominated. Mm-hmm. But I feel like a lot of the people that hold positions of power in the fashion industry are still men. So it is kind of hard to navigate. And like that whole, I don't know if you remember like Lana Del Rey's like I went my way to the top. Like I still feel like that kind of still exists sometimes. Like that you still have to like satisfy the male gaze sometimes to get what you need. And then the same thing kind of exists in medicine where most doctors are men. I am seeing though a lot of women attaining like really nice positions of power. Like for instance where I work, like the chair is now a girl and I'm like, yay, like this is amazing. So it's really interesting. I feel like as a woman, people underestimate you. Like my parents always make this joke that, oh, you're like a loser. Like they said this in the nice way, but you're not like Prince Harry and you're not like Prince Williams. Or like you have the world watching you and having expectations of you. Like you can do whatever you want and you're not going to disappoint anyone because coming basically from nothing into something. So that's kind of how like I view it as a woman. Like I'm like, you know, the expectations are probably already low. Like you probably already think that I'm helpless, that I don't know what I'm doing. You can continue to underestimate me and then like, boom, like I will over. Yeah, exactly. Like just watch me step on your neck. No.
Yeah, your life is so inspiring. There's many young girls around the world who wants to maybe become a model, become the next superstar, or become the next best artist, or the next best musician or dancer, but they're enclosed in a societal and family expectation of, oh no, you should pursue things that are more stable or think that will be more of a secure or more reassured return down the end, right? What would be your message to that young girl who is torn between what she wants to do if she has to choose again?
I see. Ooh, that's hard. Yeah, I remember my parents wanted me to go like a different path. Like they wanted me to like really concentrate on tennis, and I literally was like, cannot. Like I broke down, and I was like, I'm not going to like. It was like a Disney movie. It's like I am not going to live my life for what you're doing. Like this is my life, and I know I'm crazy for wanting to do something that no one else has really done yet, but I'm going to do it. And because it's like your life. Like I meet people who did things to like satisfy their parents or their partners, and like deep down they have like a lot of regrets. And like I can say, thankfully, I don't have many regrets, and aside from like not taking gap years, and just It's hard to do though. I definitely remember like getting so like anxious and nervous and like, oh, I'm disappointing my parents. But like to be quite honest, at the end of the day, they're always gonna have something smart to say about anything you do in your life. So it's like just be your biggest fan. Just do what you want to do and the best way that you can do it. And that way you don't live with regrets. Like, yeah, and you'll be happier. It's your mental health, not theirs. You're struggling because they want you to do something you don't want to do, and that's not okay. But I say that with privilege as someone like that lives like in a nice Western country that can do that. Not everyone is privileged, so I really do acknowledge my privilege on that. But I do hope that like young girls out there can do the things that they want to do without being judged.
And I always say this story on the live streams because I just love it with a broken heart. We had a cardiac fellow when I was working in the hospital years ago, and it was in the nursing station one like midnight. We were talking, he was telling us how he was a photographer in college and he's always wanted to do photography, but he comes from, I think, 6 generations of physicians in his family. So he felt like he didn't have any other choice but to become a physician too, right? So he pursues medicine, becomes a cardiologist. He was in fellowship at that time. And I think we just finished a rapid response or a code or something like that. And he said, what's so sad? And I'm like, what? What's so sad? He said, it's so sad that I call the shots on people's hearts when my own is not in it.
Yeah.
So, this is a very prevalent thing throughout the world, both boys and girls. And I would say, I guess, more for girls, right? Because it's usually for women who we make it seem like they can't be many different things at the same time, right? And it's so true. I agree with what you say that, you just do what you love to do, right? Life is so short that you can be whatever you want to be. You can be a doctor, you can be a model at the same time as you have done, right? And it's something that's so inspiring and so amazing to me. So thank you so much for sharing your story to us. Now that we've talked about all of the difficulties and all of the great moments about being a resident physician, also as a model in a very daunting and potentially predatory world, 2 very polarizing worlds, by the way, very different worlds, right?
I mean, kind of at the end of the day, they can kind of be the same sometimes.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask next was, is there something or things in medicine that contribute to you being a model, or things in modeling that contribute to being a physician, whether it's characteristic building or lessons or skills that you've learned and honed from both fields?
For sure, because I'm like naturally introverted, so for me both careers help me like learn how to interact with people, because like medicine is a person's job, and same with modeling, like you're consistently meeting people. So I think the 2 are intertwined in that way. And then also just relating to like rejection, you're gonna face a lot of rejection on your journey to medicine. I don't really face it so much now as a resident because I kind of reached the goal almost. But when you're like just doing anything, I had to really gain the mentality that every no meant next opportunity. So it's like I really had to like learn to like not take things personal. People are stressed out in both fields, and like it is kind of what it is. And like resiliency, because like people think that modeling is super glamorous all the time, but you don't know like backstage, like I'm like on my feet, or I'm like just naked in front of like random like getting ready for the show. I'm in heels for like 3 hours straight just standing. Same with medicine, like I'm on a 12-hour shift. I'm standing. I'm running around. I'm like sometimes forgetting to eat. They're very similar in the sense of a lot of chaos going on at the same time, but you're trying to perform and do your job and then go home.
In the midst of all of that chaos in both worlds, how do you decompress out of it?
Oh yeah, I feel okay. So for me, I try to like go to church every week. Like that's like if I can do that, then like I'm like good. I'm like, okay, the week will be fine. I did what I'm supposed to do. And then other times, like I like go. I joined a rock climbing gym, like bouldering gym called Vital. So I do that now, as in like a week ago. So
new beginnings.
I enjoy that. I go with one of my best friends from high school, and then also I know this is bad, but I like to go out on the weekends because
you do
I
what you gotta do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's not about drinking. I'm not into that. It's about like I love going to places with disco balls and hearing good music and dancing. Like that's another form of working out, and people don't realize that.
Cardio.
So it's exactly, it's cardio, and it's like better than like me running like around the park. Like I'd rather dance and then go home and chill, or even grab like a pizza or something after the club.
We love pizza or boba, right?
Right, boba, yes.
Yeah, Dr. Samantha Tall, doctor and model. I'm just so amazed and just so inspired and just so encouraged by your story and your journey. And I mean, it's just a testament to everybody, right? That you can do whatever you want to be, that you can be whatever you want to be with no limitations. Like, no matter what society's expectations may be, you just gotta show it to them. You just gotta show them that you can, right?
Exactly.
And that's what you've shown us. So thank you so much for joining me in this live. I've been so looking forward to this and the middle of Fashion Week.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like medicine and modeling is both fashion. I mean, walking into the hospital hall, like, I know what to do. You can trust me, right? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I mean,
thank you for having me. And thanks
for
beforehand, because I was nervous. I was like, I've never done a live, so this is my first.
Well,
live.
We did it, and we talked about so many amazing things. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you again.
Bye, everyone.